Hey, it's news from heaven. Did you know angels don't take the Bible literally? What does that mean? I don't know. We'll find out today. How are you? How do you feel this week? How is your head weather? Are there things coming in, whatever your particular ones are, that are trying to destroy your ability to have a happy existence or a hopeful existence? Do we find that the picture of life we have is confusing and doesn't provide satisfying answers and doesn't tie together all this weird, disparate stuff, and it doesn't seem to have anything moral or good behind it? Well, let's see if we can't get ourselves looking, instead of at the appearance, how things seem, at the underlying reality, at the truth, at what endures. So, as we go investigate whether or not angels take the Bible literally. Did you ever wonder that? No? Okay. Let's see if that can't clear up for us a little bit of what's going on. See if we can't brighten the skies a little bit. What we're doing is hanging out in Secrets of Heaven. You can download this for free and follow along. We're just getting to the end of Swedenborg's, maybe the first chapter. I couldn't do the research to go tell you if it was the end of the first chapter. He's talking about the internal sense. This is the fascinating thing about Swedenborg, is that he's got a lot of ideas that are very at home in a post-Christian spiritual climate. He talks about people being able to go to a happy afterlife that he calls heaven, regardless of religious tradition. It's your motivations in your heart that form who you are. He says heaven and hell are really states of mind that are choices. He talks about things that would be more at home in the sort of holistic view of the universe and quantum mechanics, and he doesn't think that the Bible is actually talking about creation in 6 days. But then he doesn't throw out the Bible. He says, no, the Bible actually is central to everything. And we can get a clue to why it's so important in the way that angels read the Bible. Yeah, that angels actually read the Bible as well, but it may not be the Bible as we would recognize it. Okay, now, you've probably by now read a whole page without me. Let's get to it. Number 64. This, then, is the word's inner meaning, the true and genuine life in it, which does not reveal itself at all in the literal meaning. What he's just spent that real estate above explaining is that these stories, the things that can sometimes seem crude, and what is that all about, and how is this divine? Adam and Eve, Noah's Ark, these things have a symbolic meaning to them. They are written in the language of symbolism, like the language of dreams, and it tells you something that you have to have the Rosetta Stone key to unlock, or else you can't get in there. You could read the whole literal meaning with getting a sense of it without getting really what it's about, which is probably why you can have such a wide variety. Some people have the Bible and they use it to justify things that are very different than what other people are justifying. What does it actually mean? But the number of secrets hidden within is so large that volumes would fail to unfold all of them. Although we are in the middle of unfolding all of them in 16, depending on your translation, volumes that Swedenborg wrote, I have offered just a few. He's saying even the part he already wrote about, of a type confirming that regeneration is the theme and that it progresses from outer to inner self. Now we're getting to something. So what is the Bible actually about? Because people can talk about, they say, well, here's me, and here's my group that I think is in line with me, and maybe they belong to my religious tradition or something else, my country, something like that. And we are what's up, and we should have the power because the Bible says so. The Bible is talking about who should be in charge. Other people think, look, the Bible is predicting events that are going to happen, predicting what's going to happen in 2012. A lot of people are predicting stuff for then or whatever. This is a predictor of the future. And others are saying that it's primarily, a threat. Like, are you going to go to be eternally happy or eternally punished? Well, you've got to accept Jesus Christ. And what is the actual theme? And Swedenborg is saying regeneration is the theme. And what's regeneration? Well, this is the book. The book is divine because it's about all of us all the time. Regeneration is our growth from being spiritually just like a single cell, like totally only aware of our own world, our own needs and wants, not thinking about others, to growing and growing and growing into angelic people, which then after we die become angels. And that is actually you find that in these stories. But how angels will help us unpack that. It progresses also from outer to inner self. That is the fascinating thing about this journey to be reborn spiritually is something that starts in the mundane details. This is why we have to do things like, okay, I need to not lose my cool at situation X here. I need to not indulge in behavior Y that I know is problematic. That stuff is the beginning of the progression that leads to this amazing revolution of our consciousness. That is contained in what Swedenborg described above. All right, where's the angels? Where's the angels? That is what angels see in the Word. And check this out. They know nothing whatever of the literal contents, or the most obvious meaning of even one word, still less the names of different lands, cities, rivers, and people that come up so frequently in the narrative in prophetic parts. So if you were going to say to the angels, yeah, man, we got here, we've been reading the Bible, we know you have some kind of comparable text there. What about, did you go see the pageant where there's Mary and Joseph in the manger? They don't traffic in those details. The different lands, the things that we can be very familiar with, if you maybe had a religious upbringing and you had like a Sunday school, they will teach you, they go, here's Egypt, here's Canaan, there's Jerusalem. It's not about those, not even the Euphrates. It's not about those things. But yet those things that when we're hearing those and understanding those in our earthly way, that creates a chain of consciousness that goes up to angels. And that's worth drawing, even if I mess that up a little bit. So there's like he says the angels we're kind of flip-flopping, because it's like the angels have the Bible, but they don't know anything of the contents in the Bible. So if you got us here, yep, this is really what it looks like. And we're reading our Bible, and our Bible is full of things. It's full of, what color are rivers? Probably blue, right? It's got rivers. It's got people. It's got little cities. It's got stories, which can be puzzling. How is this a divine? Like, here I am in here, we're, struggling under all the stuff that I'm up against in this life. And I look to God, if you're going to tell me that this is your word here, can you just learn how to draw a book? I'm going to look to God, and I get, okay, there was a flood for 40 days, and there was a boat that was on top of it. That is, sure, you could draw a general theme that is, God is doing stuff, but that doesn't get to me where I am. How is this the only thing you left us with? Well, it's because within here, there is this inner meaning that has solely to do with our spirits. And when you're in the spiritual world, as angels are, and you're reading this thing, you experience the spiritual side of it. So the contents that do have to do with daily life and do have to do with the things we want and need. But there has to be this particular line here is the earthly correspondence to this particular spiritual concept here. And let's take a look at exactly how that would show up. Adam in paradise, for instance, brings the earliest church to their minds. Not even the church itself, but its belief in the Lord. Okay. Noah brings up the picture of that church's remnant. That's like remembrant. This is really hard when it goes from one line to the other. Remnant among its successors, lasting up to Abraham's time. Abraham never makes them think of a man who lived long ago, but of a saving faith which he represented. Because why is Abraham great? Sounds like he did a lot of great things. Nothing against him personally, but why is he, knowing so much about his life, is so critical to this book that's meant to be for all people, all over, all the time, individually? If these are symbols, so if angels are hearing the beginning of the book, and they're not getting this Garden of Eden to the flood to Abraham, but instead what they're getting is this particular kind of belief in the Lord. And this belief in the Lord being the belief that accompanies the state of innocence that the Garden of Eden is. Because why start the book, about this talking about this garden where these things are growing and these people live in a state of, you could say, a state of nature where they are getting everything they need from the land. That's the mindset we were born to have, which is that the things around you, the sun, the biology, those are correspondences for how the Lord was meant to be able to just give us. Let's see what can we do for the Lord here. Give us whatever we need. We'll draw the Lord as a sun here. And that we were able to get not just the food and stuff, but the mindsets. Here we have all these questions, and when we're hurting, we don't know how to get fixed. And when we need comfort or reassurance, and we don't even know what is the quality of my mental life or emotional life, what is trying to lead me astray, what is not. There you knew. There you could get what you needed. People would get dreams that would tell them what to do. People would get insights that would tell them what to do. There wouldn't be this weird, sort of almost artificial feeling trying to connect between what's spiritual and what's in us. This is the state, that state. And when angels are it makes sense. And this state we can be getting back to through regeneration. So of course you start the story with that state. And that's what these angels are feeling. So if you have the belief in the Lord going to the remnant among the successors, what it was after we get out of that state, what sort of leads up to it. And remember, that state is not gone. It's inside of us. It's deep in there. So this is like the core that we're trying to get to. This is the state outside that we pick up because we can't be there then. And then we think of this, and then it goes to this saving faith, which is faith is an affection for truth. So the love of what's true that would lead us into here, which leads us into there. That starts to be about universal things. That starts to be about everyone. They don't know Abraham, but they know that. And we know Abraham because with us, it's like you tell a story to kids to try to guide them to remember it and understand it. We can't know those things clearly. If we just had a story about those words and it was translated for thousands of years, we wouldn't know what it was talking about. But we can get, here's a guy, he was doing this thing, here's a river, you need to cross it. We can understand those, and from that, build out our understanding and provide a foundation for how angels understand the book, and so on. In some, they see spiritual and heavenly realities in the word, completely separate from the words and names. On our end, it falls into words and names. Several people found themselves carried up into heaven's outermost entry hall while I was reading the word. And look at, the word, which is what Swedenborg calls the Bible, but the Bible is the current iteration. The word used to be nature. We've done many shows on that. Just him reading it, because of that stacking that I showed in the picture in the margin, it had an impact on the location. These people are spirits he's talking about that are around him. Yeah, that was Swedenborg's life. That was a normal day for him. And they spoke to me from there. They said that they had no inkling of a single word or letter there, but saw only the things symbolized on the next deeper level of meaning. So as Swedenborg is reading this, they're seeing the internal contents. And Swedenborg says actually it works in the reverse as well, that he describes, and we've mentioned this in a few shows, but he describes a scene in which there's a person who is asleep here, and there are angels discussing a superficial mindset, like a worldly sort of profit without use and shallowness, which, right, how do you draw that? And in this person's dream down here, a person who this person believes has that mindset, whether or not they do, but it's what they mean to them, appeared in that person's dream. So we go from concrete and provide them with fuel for abstract, and they can talk abstract, which provides us, yes, it does, Swedenborg says at times, that's falling into your dream life, if I may be so bold. These things, according to their description, were so beautiful. So these internal things that they were getting, Swedenborg was just reading the Bible, reading the normal stories that we all can have access to, but in the spiritual side of it, they were so beautiful, followed in such a perfect sequence. It's not just that it's moving, but it's got information in it, and it's got design in it, and affected them so deeply that they called it glory. And so if we're reading this Bible and feeling like this is not doing it for me, Okay, so you can take comfort in knowing what it's holding moves people right to the core. And sometimes I think you can get emotional a little bit. I do find in sorry, I'll try to finish one thought before I go to the next thought. I do find that at times when I do read the Bible, I get emotional reading it. And it's not because really that's a time to get emotional during the story. If somebody was next to me, but I would never cry in front of someone, they would say, why are you choked up at this? This is not even a sad part in the story. But something about it just like there's some poetry to it that just stirs you. And Swedenborg says that each particular phrase in the Bible is linked to some heavenly society. So there's this heavenly society, that may go with that, but there's this one over here, this one over here, this one over here, and each part of the Bible has some group that it links to. So it could be that, the angels that are sort of with you, they have a special connection to what is held within this phrase, so that when you read it, it touches your heart because it's a symbol of the angels are there on behalf of God and God's love for you. So this is God saying through them, through this container, I do love you. And I do know what's going on in your life. And I'm not forgetting. And we are going to be okay. So just remember that. This book here can actually be a way, even if these clouds are making that message inaudible to us here, there's a workaround. We may be able to get it through there. Yeah. Oh, hey, to wrap things up here, did you know the Word has 4 major modes of writing? Maybe you already knew this. The mode of the people in the earliest church. First, the mode of the people in the earliest church. Their method of expressing themselves involved thought of the spiritual and heavenly things represented by the earthly mundane objects they mentioned. Not only did they express themselves in words representing higher things, they also spun those words into a kind of narrative thread to lend them greater life. This practice gave the earliest people the fullest pleasure possible. This early manner of writing is meant in Hannah's prophecy, speak deeply, deeply, let what is ancient come out of your mouth. David calls those representations signs, representative signs, enigmas from ancient times. Moses received the present accounts of creation in the Garden of Eden, extending up to the time of Abram from the descendants of the earliest church. So you had this way of taking the divine truth. If you have something ineffable and spiritual, and there is a mechanism by which God reaches down into the hearts and minds of people on earth, that mechanism, this transistor period here, is called the church. And that is making it so they can then take that and save it for posterity. So you create this permanent link here. What the earliest church did, this early mindset that was the love I was describing earlier in Eden, they weaved it into a story. And like a story that's like a little fantastical. Like the Garden of Eden, for example, with these characters. And it is a narrative, like it makes sense. It has people in it. And it's entirely based on the inner spiritual meaning. That's the first mode. Second is the narrative mode. This mode is used in the books of Moses from Abram's story on, in Joshua, Judges, Samuel, and Kings. The historical events in these books are exactly what they appear to be in the literal sense. Swedenborg is saying Garden of Eden and Noah did not happen. Sorry, but that's what he says. But this other stuff here did happen. Sure, it happened. But even it happening was an element of storytelling, an element of corresponding to what's going on in heaven. But as a whole and in detail, they still contain an entirely different meaning on the inner plane, which is a bit of a concept you got to chew on a bit. What follows will, with the Lord's divine mercy, explain that meaning in order, meaning the rest of Secrets of Heaven. Please download all the books, read them all for free. 3, the prophetic mode. The inspiration for this was the mode used by the earliest church, a manner of writing the authors revered, but the prophetic mode lacks the cohesiveness and semi-historical quality of the earliest church's mode. It is choppy and almost completely unintelligible except on the inner level, which holds profound secrets forming a well-connected chain of ideas. They deal with our outer and inner beings, the many stages of the church, heaven itself, and at the very core, the Lord. You ever been in the book of Revelation? Some stuff in Isaiah, I would imagine, falls in there, which is not like, you don't teach that to kids in Sunday school, because Well, maybe you would, but it's just not as easy as the story of Noah and the ark or the story of the Garden of Eden. It's just strange stuff because it's not quite as connected. They didn't quite have the divine skill of the earliest people, but yet the meaning is fully intact. The internal meaning is fully intact, even if that creates this kind of patchwork in the external stuff. For what it's worth, Book of Revelation, some of the stuff in there will get me a little misty, like I was describing. And 4 David's Psalms. This mode is midway between the prophetic mode and people's usual way of speaking. I think this is why a lot of people, if they give you people will give each other, if they're religious, they'll give you here's a 23rd Psalm on a bookmark or something. Why? Because it makes sense. It's something we can get. It does seem to address, 23rd Psalm does seem to talk about the things we go through in life and the things we need help with. It is sort of how you would talk about things, and that's where perhaps this inner meaning is a little more visible. It doesn't mean that same love everywhere, the take home is that everywhere in the book is as potent and as loving and as carefully thought out as the 23rd Psalm, but it's a little bit hidden. The inner meaning speaks of the Lord under the character of David when he was king, David representing what the Lord is really like. And so even the 23rd Psalm is some of what Jesus was going through. That same thing, that God intentionally went through the same journey that we went through to build a pathway. All of this. So I don't know what your relationship is with the book of the Bible. It may be something that was used against you throughout life. It may be something that's confusing and totally a non-factor for you. What Swedenborg is claiming is that this is all a way for the Lord to serve and reach us. It's an instrument and an aid in bringing us into heaven and happiness. And angels see that right away. There is a mode in which you just see what's at the core of it. And it's a way we can connect with heaven, knowing that while we're working our way, isn't that how life is? Life is as confusing and disjointed from our perspective as some of the stories in the Bible can seem, but knowing over it, there is this beautiful spiritual truth that when we see what that is, it's like when people in the near-death experience that had all these questions and all this angst about life, and when they see the actual plan, when they see what's really going on, okay, I get it, and it's good, and it's fine. Everything's going to be okay. And that's the news from heaven. How'd you like it? Please leave a comment. Let us know what worked for you. Can you do anything with that concept? How does that fill in any gaps for you or resonate? Or how does this make life better? We would love to know there. Hey, come and hang out with us. We are doing this summer a 3-day in-person gathering, the offTheLeftEye experience. You can actually drive or fly or walk here, depending where you are. And we can take concepts like these, dive down deeper into them. Would love to see you there. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back with another News from Heaven in just a couple days. Hope in the meantime, these concepts are making a real difference for you. Thanks.